Make sure you don't miss a thing. Go to starzology.com/newsletter and sign up. Welcome to the Starzology Astrology Podcast. I am your host, Alison Price, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Arwynne O'Neill.
Hello, Alison. It's great to be here.
So nice to have you once more.
Thank you.
So in this episode, we are doing a Q&A because it's our 225th podcast episode that we are recording today.
It is indeed, yes.
Which is crazy. Now, every 25 episodes, we do Q&A from you, our listeners.
Yes.
So we are going to be answering listeners' questions about astrology, and we do get a lot of all sorts of questions.
Yeah, definitely.
We definitely do. And you can certainly, if you have a question, you can send it in to us, and we will address it at our 250th episode. And
Starzology@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Just
email it to us, and we will be answering your questions. But what's interesting is the type of questions we are getting from our audience, which is quite interesting in itself.
It is.
That it's not just we're not just getting your basic astrology, we're getting some rather complex questions about advanced astrology, which is really what we talk about, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, often we do the whole spectrum, I think. We do basics, we do very complex,
And we've spoken before about that we want you to listen to our podcast and then think about what we've said in the next week and keep the astrological conversation going.
Absolutely.
We're not just giving you a fish. We're not even really teaching you how to fish. We're saying, well, if you had this rod and you had that river, what would you do? Not that I know anything about fishing.
Right. Yeah.
But we're not even teaching you how to fish. We are showing you the concepts of if you did stand on the riverbank with a rod
and you were hungry,
what was potentially?
What are the results that you could have?
So
fascinating.
So that's one way of looking at it. So the idea is that we have a few questions that we're just going to address today.
Yeah.
It's and Arwynne's going to read them out to us, and we're going to be discussing what we think the answers are to these questions from our listeners.
That sounds great.
So over to you, Arwynne. What do you have for us to start with?
Well, our first question comes from Rose in Tampa. And her question is, how does the chart's ruler's condition shape the overall coherence of the natal chart?
Wow.
Yeah.
So to start with, let's quite clarify.
Yeah,
what is the chart ruler?
So you have to know what time you were born. You have to know where you were born. And that would be the ruler of the sign on the ascendant. So if you have Aries rising, that would be Mars, because Mars rules Aries.
Yes.
If you have Virgo rising, that would be Mercury. If you have Gemini rising, it would also be Mercury. If you have Libra rising, it would be Venus. Yeah. So that would be that planet. The planet that rules your ascendant is your chart ruler.
Yeah. And so your ascendant and your rising sign are the same thing.
Yep.
And one planet rules each sign.
Yes.
Well, okay, some planets rule two signs.
Yeah.
But whatever your ascendant sign is, the planet that rules that sign in your chart.
Yeah.
Because that was the question, right?
Yeah. So you have Leo rising.
Yes.
So the sun would be your chart's ruler.
My sun is my chart
ruler.
Very
convenient.
It is super convenient.
Yeah. I have Scorpio rising, and so mine is either or both Mars and Pluto.
Because they
rule Scorpio, and it's the modern ruler and the traditional ruler. So I can it's like a choose your own adventure. You can pick which one you want, or you can kind of do both, which is great. Yeah. But there are also, if you have Virgo or Gemini rising, that's Mercury. So there's a bit of a give and take, a bit of
flexibility there. So it's only Leo and Cancer, because Cancer is ruled by the moon.
Yeah.
So those are only two signs that's only got one ruler. The rest, that's not true. Capricorn's got Saturn, Sagittarius got Jupiter. But the point is that what we are looking for is the chart ruler, whichever planet that is.
Yeah.
But how is it in your chart?
Right. So
not in general.
Not just the planet.
Yeah.
Exactly. You want to know. Okay. So for example, if you do have Scorpio rising, let's just use that.
Yes, let's use that. Let's use you as dare I say,
why wouldn't we?
I don't want to say a guinea pig.
We love guinea pigs. Yeah, actually kind of very messy creatures. I would never. Anyway, it doesn't matter. They're cute. Guinea pig. Sure. Yeah.
So we're talking about Arwynne's chart. Arwynne's got Scorpio rising. So her two ruling planets are Mars and Pluto. So we look in her chart about how is her Mars.
Yeah.
And fortunately for Arwynne, she's got it to Taurus in the 7th. And we have spoken about Mars several times.
Yeah. So go back and listen to our other Mars podcasts if you want, if you're interested in that. If you also have Scorpio rising.
Yes.
And so Mars in the 7th house, it's great. It's a great placement. My partners might, agree or not agree. But I think he would agree that that's a great placement for my Mars. He's a great.
Well, it represents him anyway.
100%. He's a very Martial person. Yeah, he's got Mars in Leo. But anyway, so I've got Mars in Taurus, which is not a great placement for Mars. It is in its detriment because that is opposite Scorpio. Scorpio being its rulership, so detriment is the opposite of that. And since it's in the 7th house, it's directly opposite.
And going on from that too, you've got the square to Jupiter, you've got a trine to is it the Sun, I think. And there are multiple and the sacred quadrant there too, Neptune. But sorry, what was the actual question again? Sorry,
it's how does it shape the overall coherence and the overall chart?
Yes.
So I mean, really, you just want to look at all of the and if you do have some placement where there are 2 planets. So, for example, if you have Pisces rising, you're going to want to look at Jupiter and Neptune because that is the traditional and the modern placement. And you're going to have to kind of do this little juggle of which one is more important? Where is Jupiter? Where is Neptune? Do they have any interaspects between the two of them?
But the fact that Mars and Pluto are your 2 chart rulers gives them importance to start with.
For sure.
Yes. They're already ahead of the rest of the planets.
Yeah.
They're coloring who you are.
Yes, totally.
So with that, we got that Mars we've had a quick look at, and then you've got the Pluto in Libra in the 11th.
Yeah.
Again, trining Jupiter and squaring Saturn, and it's all kind of connected in. But let me ask you, do you feel that which of those 2 planets is more prominent for you, or do you see them as equally having an influence in your life?
Yeah, to be honest, I do feel that Pluto is a bit stronger.
Right.
And that would be probably because it is conjunct my Venus.
Right.
It is square my Saturn, and that's one of the tightest squares in my entire chart.
Yeah.
It's less than 1 degree.
Yeah.
And that's it's a bit of a generational marker. Actually, any squares that Pluto makes
yes.
I mean, the Pluto-Saturn cycle is very politically kind of engaged. And
that's you.
Yeah. I mean, Liz Green did a whole thing about people who have Saturn-Pluto placements and how that is almost you almost have like a generational trauma that's kind of built into your chart. I don't like to use the word trauma because I'm a Generation X and we don't really believe in trauma. Like we kind of ate trauma for breakfast. But if you're millennial or younger, you might be super interested in trauma.
Yes.
And so Saturn Pluto is a very kind of, it makes you feel like the personal is political and vice versa. Like you feel like the world events really affect you, and it's really reflected in that square in my chart. Whereas Mars in my chart has 3 trines. It has 1 square, but it's to Jupiter, so that's kind of, it almost might as well be a trine because Jupiter squares are kind of nice and fluffy. But all the other placements that Mars has with my other planets are they're either sextiles or trines, basically.
Yes.
It doesn't do anything dramatic in my chart.
Exactly.
And it's in Taurus,
Yeah, it's kind of slightly debilitated there.
Right.
But the point is that because both Mars and Pluto are your chart rulers, already they are getting, in my book, a high score in your chart particularly.
Yeah.
So it's bringing that outer planet Pluto forward, which would not happen in a chart like mine because I've got Leo rising.
Yeah.
So already we are focusing on these 2 planets as they are going to affect your life because they are important planets and they're prominent in your chart. No matter where they're placed, they are still going to be head and shoulders above other planets that are just sitting there minding their own business.
Absolutely.
So the importance of ruling planets is big.
Yeah. Totally.
If not bigger than the sun and moon.
Yeah.
It does depend, but in general, you absolutely have to give cognizance to these planets when you're looking at somebody's chart, right?
Totally. And it's really important if you look at synastry as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you just want to make sure where your ruling planets are landing in someone else's chart.
Yes, because these are powerful planets. Not only that, when Mars and Pluto are transiting, they're more important for you than they are for me.
Very much so. I've documented a great deal of Pluto transit energy in my throughout my life. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think that you cannot ignore ruling planets, even if they're maybe not well placed, or maybe they're retrograde, or whatever it is, or debilitated in some other way. You still cannot ignore them because they are the chart ruler. They get respect because they've got the position.
Totally.
And that has to be considered.
Exactly. It's like if you got Meryl Streep to do like a little, 5-minute walk on your movie. Like, it might be a 5-minute walk on and she might only have a couple of lines, but it's Meryl effing Streep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or Judi Dench when she was in Shakespeare.
8 minutes.
Literally, you know, exactly. If you know, you know. And she won the Best Supporting Actor, and well deserved for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But got 8 minutes.
Yeah. So I think the point is that these planets are important and cannot be dismissed. Was that the question in the end? Did we answer that?
I think so. Like,
Rose?
Just how does I think that she basically is asking, like, what does the chart ruler's condition do?
Yeah, it really does impact the chart. And thank you for that great question and for following us and listening. We do appreciate her being one of our listeners. Yeah.
Thank you, Rose.
Thank you, Rose.
Yeah.
All right.
So our next question comes from Alex in Christchurch, New Zealand.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening from, do they still call New Zealand down under, or is that just Australia?
No, that's Australia.
All right. I mean, they're nearby each other.
Yes. Like, but we have a lot of listeners from
New Zealand.
Yes,
it is
we
not
do.
Down under.
It's crazy.
So sorry for saying that.
It's crazy.
Yes. New Zealand is famously where they filmed all the Lord of the Rings movies, and my name comes from Lord of the Rings. I have a very big affinity through that.
Fantastic.
With New Zealand. Absolutely gorgeous place. All right. Alex asks, do major aspect patterns in the natal chart dissolve in time through secondary progressions? Good
question.
Huh.
Yes. So what is the question asking?
That is my question, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a very insightful question. So thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
So what he's asking, or she, I'm not sure who it is.
Sure.
If you've got a major aspect pattern, such as a T-square, a grand trine, or a yod or something, and it's in the natal chart, and the question is, does it dissolve over time through secondary progressions?
Of course. Yeah, right.
So secondary progressions is a way of moving the chart forward, and it's technically 1 day for a year of the sun's movement, but the planets won't necessarily move. Some won't move at all.
Right. I mean, the outer planets will not move at all, but I mean,
some will not move at all.
Teeny bit. But,
yes. Yeah. So it does depend. So it's a good question, because say you've got a T-square, say between, I don't know, the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto had a T-square, which clearly it wouldn't have. That would not move. That would not dissolve. Right. But if you have a T-square between the sun, Mars, and the moon, in time, that will dissolve, because the progress moon will move away and the T-square will fall away.
Absolutely.
So you only actually technically have the ability to tap into that T-square in the years before the moon moves away.
Very interesting.
Now, of course, who has time to dig into these? But as a good astrologer, you ought to be doing it. Because not only are you paying attention to T-squares that are falling out of orb through secondary progression, you also want to look at those coming into orb that were not even in your birth chart.
Yeah.
So when you're doing, that's why you would want to cast the secondary progress chart to see, does this T-square still hold?
Right.
Or has Uranus moved in and taken over?
Is it now a grand trine?
Yes.
Which case, wow.
Or is it now a grand cross? Right. Or has Saturn moved away but Uranus moved in?
Yeah.
So that's a very interesting question, that although it's in your natal chart, by secondary progression, it will dissolve.
Yeah.
But new ones will form too, and we don't know what they're going to be.
Which isn't to say that when you're doing your chart, if you're in your 40s or 50s or 60s or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, your chart is still your chart. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you all of those grand trines and squares that you have in your natal chart, that's always going to be your chart. Mm-hmm. But as we've also noticed in let's say squares, a square that you had that really caused a lot of contention in your younger years, you get used to it in a way. Something that really caused
you master it.
Yeah, you master it. Exactly. Those things that maybe caused a lot of friction when you were in your 20s or 30s or teens even, they'll become more palatable. And that, I think, is
because a
definitely to do with this.
A square, say you've got the sun square moon in your natal chart, by progression, you will get the sun trine moon.
Yeah.
And although it's the same two planets in aspect, they have a different relationship, because good helpers, you've learned something, surely.
Yeah.
And this is what progressions do, that they are slowly unfolding your natal chart, because it all comes from your natal chart progressions, that the shift in the energy is now. If you are a returning listener and enjoying the Starzology podcast, supporting the show is always appreciated. It helps us continue producing episodes and covers the costs involved in keeping the podcast online. There's a link in the show notes.
Yeah, the sign placements will also be the same. You'll still have Mars in Taurus or whatever, but all of the relationships in those between the planets will shift over time with the progressions. That's right. So
if you were in your 20s and you had this challenging T-square, you may find that it's morphed into something like a grand trine, and it could do. But you will only know that if you cast the secondary progressions for today to see what's going on.
Absolutely.
And you may find that you may have had a difficult chart when you started, but now in your 50s, you've got a far easier going chart to deal with because your life has become hopefully better.
Yeah.
But it works the other way too.
I was going to say, of course, we all know people who maybe had a very easy childhood and they had, were very popular in high school and.
Yes. Well, my son, for instance, has a grand trine in fire, and he cruised through into his 20s, into his 30s even. Yeah. But as time has gone on, this grand trine has gone away and a T-square has formed, and he's having to deal with stuff that really ought to have been dealt with 20 years ago. Yeah. But now it's approaching him because it's in his secondary progressed chart.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting question because it does change, and you need to, that's why you have to move past transits and get onto secondary progressions to see the evolution of the person.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I love that. Great.
So I hope, did we answer the question there, Arwynne?
I feel like we did. If we didn't, Alex, please write back to us and let us know if we need to clarify more.
Yeah, or anyone else who...
or anyone else who wants to know about secondary progressions.
It's a good question though, right?
It's a wonderful question. Yeah, fascinating.
Okay.
Yeah. Okie doke. Our next question comes from Doug from Glasgow.
Right.
All right. When do you switch from Placidus cusps to 0 Aries and why?
That's a good question.
Okay.
So the question is, because we use Placidus house cusp in Arwynne and I, we are at Starzology, we use Placidus girls.
We are # Team Placidus.
We're Team Placidus. Get a T-shirt. We are Team Placidus.
And you know.
And the main reason for that is that 85% of charts today in 2026 use Placidus cusp. But 85% of astrologers use it. And not everybody does.
Not everyone does. And it takes into account the geography, which is why certain houses are way bigger and certain houses are way smaller. Because if you go farther away from the equator, different houses will take up a greater deal of the circle of the chart. I'm doing things with my hands that you can't see.
Yes.
But equal houses, while easy, I guess, mathematically, they just don't satisfy that geographical element of the chart for us personally. That's why I find them less evocative. And also because if you put there's always a personal reason too, right?
Right. Let's hear it, Arwynne. Let's hear it.
Yeah. Well, there's always that thing where you put your chart into like a certain different house system and you're like, oh no, I do not have Venus in the 12th house. No, that will not stand. And then you go back to the other house system you used. Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not that there's anything wrong with Venus in the 12th house. I just don't want it.
Right.
So, yeah.
So this is it. So when I first started learning astrology, we lived in Johannesburg, and because you're so close to the equator, it's only like 30 degrees south. Yeah. Most of the houses were they weren't as obscure as they are now. We're in Canada, where we're at the 49th parallel.
Right.
So anyway, so Placidus is the main house cusp system that we are using, the house system we're using, and in general for natal charts, secondary progressions, transit work, we are using Placidus.
Yeah.
But the question is, when are we changing to
from Placidus to 0 Aries, and why?
And the reason you would cast a chart on 0 Aries is typically if you're doing a transit chart, say for an eclipse, and you want to say, okay, we've got an eclipse in, I don't know, we've got an eclipse in Aries and it's at so and so degrees, but you're talking to a global audience. So you want to cast that chart on 0 Aries, which then puts Aries at the ascendant position, and each house is then 30 degrees, and that's your zero Aries house system.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah.
So you can then clearly see where we're talking about this eclipse in this particular position. But if I cast the chart for Vancouver, it wouldn't make sense if you are in Johannesburg or Hong Kong or whatever.
Or Glasgow.
Or Glasgow, indeed.
Yeah.
So that's why you would put specifically eclipse charts to zero Aries. And not only that, when we do our overarch, our monthly overarch, we also use zero Aries because we are talking to a global audience and you don't know where people are.
That is very interesting.
So us to impose, Vancouver cusps, it doesn't make sense.
And a lot of astrologers that you may find on the internet will specifically say, okay, this is cast for New York City, or this is cast for Greenwich Mean Time, which is basically London.
Yes.
So
yes,
it's a choice.
Yes,
There's
it's still a choice.
And you just have to note that and be like, okay, well, if I'm on the West Coast, I'm going to subtract 3 hours if they're casting it for New York.
That's the whole thing we're trying to avoid.
8 hours if they're doing it for Greenwich Mean Time, whatever. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why we would do that.
That's right. So technically you would only really use zero Aries when you are doing forecasting looking forward, because you're trying to explain something in particular or share something that's coming up.
Right.
But and talking about time zones, I mean, Canada's recently, or BC in Canada, British Columbia in Canada has recently we've gone on to summertime. And in November, we're not going back to standard time. They've changed the law. We're going to stay on standard time, and they're calling it Pacific time.
Daylight, Pacific Daylight Time. And it's going to be always Pacific Daylight Time, just Pacific time.
They're calling it Pacific time.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
It was previously Pacific Daylight because daylight savings
That's
time.
what the US are going to be on.
Right. We're not going to be doing daylight savings anymore. We did it last month, or
in March.
March, rather. That was the last time.
Yes.
So I love that actually for us.
So, that's a whole nother topic.
It is, right?
So from now on, British Columbia, not Alberta or the other provinces, we are moving a year, 1 hour ahead of standard time.
Yeah.
So this also impacts chart calculations, and you don't need to add.
Have a huge impact.
Yeah, but you don't. When we're talking to our global audience, which we are clearly from our questions that are coming in, and we can see where people are listening from.
Yeah.
We know it's not in Canada.
Yeah.
You want to be able to present a zero Aries chart so people can relate to the actual concept about what we're talking, and then impose that onto where they're living in Glasgow and put that on their chart.
Yeah.
So that's the reason we go from Placidus, which we normally use, to zero Aries, and that would technically be the only other house system I would go to. I never do the others like Porphyry and Regiomontanus and Equal. I never do that.
And
all of those. And you can if you want to, but of course I don't. So the only two we ever use here is Placidus, which is usually for all natal charts for forecasting. And then when we're talking about specific events coming forward, or say you've got the Pluto square, Uranus coming up, that would be where we would use zero Aries.
So are we talking zero Aries and then equal houses?
No, it's not equal.
No, it's still Placidus. It's just at zero Aries.
No, it's zero Aries, but each house is 30 degrees. So the first house is Aries.
Oh, got it. Okay, so it's not. Yeah. Okay, so it's not equal.
Yeah, so it's not equal. No, that's different.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So but that is a good question, because what was his name?
Doug.
Yeah, so
Doug from Glasgow.
He was the one who realized that we do two different house systems, and the question really was why.
Doug.
I know. I thought, well, there's a question to be answered. So
someone paying attention.
Hopefully that made sense, but that's why we do it. And you can let us know what you guys do if you want to, because
absolutely,
we'd be interested
would love to
to
hear
know.
That.
Yeah. Okay, then. Moving on. So next we have a question from Raj. Raj asks, and this is, I think, it's a bit of a cheeky question, but I actually like it. It's got a depth to it. How did the astrological stereotypes come about? We have all heard that, say, Taurus is stubborn, or Scorpio has this association with sex. Why is that? This episode is brought to you by New Moon Wishing, a self-care guidebook for wishful thinkers. Please see the link in the show notes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just the signs, it's the planets too, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Because
yeah.
Taurus is ruled by Venus, and so is Libra. So there's that feminine thing.
So, you know, I would say that this goes back to, we're going to blame the Greeks for this.
Sure.
And that all the charts that were calculated way back in the Babylonians prior to them.
Yeah, Mesopotamia.
All of that. They just took thousands of charts and realized that people with this placement of the moon or that sign rising have this kind of trait.
Yeah.
And that's really where it came from. It was just serious research over the centuries.
Yeah. And documenting those personality types and then saying, oh, wow, you guys, this group has this very, you know, they're like Venus, they're, you know, or they're like Ishtar or whatever. And they would map characters onto these types that they had actually witnessed.
Yes.
And so it's almost like the stereotypes came about after the observation.
It did.
Yeah.
But we still have it today because recently when Chiron was discovered in the 70s, there was this whole new planet.
What's Chiron like?
All the astrologers got on board, and eventually it took like 5 years, and then there was a couple of Chiron books come out talking about its nature.
Yeah, Barbara Hand Clow and all these others.
And the same with Eris, when Eris was discovered in 2006, which is probably the most recent one we talk about.
Very much so. Mike Brown. And I mean, they initially had named Iris Xena the warrior princess. And if you know, you know. I used to watch that show religiously as one does.
But this is it. But once they get the mythological name on, the name, it's the same with the asteroids. The name tells you the nature of, and it all goes back then basically to the Greeks or maybe the Romans. I'm not quite sure. But it goes back to that
to those
even new planets that's being discovered now, even things like Sedna that we never use, Makemake and Huamea, we just don't even use them, Arwynne and I.
Yeah.
But somebody's out there now doing this research, finding out the keywords for these planets and so on. And Demetra George, who wrote Asteroid Goddesses, that is her first point, that the name of the asteroid is reflected by its myth. And the meaning of the myth is the meaning of the planet once the name is there.
Which is why it's so interesting. And it's about synchronicity, really.
Yes.
Because that naming, those astronomers they're not thinking, oh, this is going to categorize a bunch of different people. But yet, Eris literally was the disruptor of the zodiac and also mythologically and in the solar system. Because Eris was discovered, Pluto got kicked out of the solar system.
Yes.
Just like her namesake.
Yeah.
So it's not like Mike Brown was going, how can we make this meaningful and use the archetypes to our, no, he was just like, this name is cool. We need to pick a mythological name and I like it. And I want to name it after a woman because whatever, I'm a, progressive guy, a feminist, whatever, from California. But it just turns out, because we live in an incredibly bizarre universe where metaphors actually mean something. And I don't know why. I can't explain why.
But there's been research about when you name things, this is why it's important. So say you've got some kids and you've got some of your little kids and you call the one, oh, my little cockroach. That is imposing a terrible influence to that child. Whereas if you say, oh, my little angel, you are in, what's the word?
You're imbuing
angel qualities to that child.
Yes.
And in whatever your name is, as the planet's names, that's the meaning of who you are. So if you're called Arwynne, we all know what that means. That goes.
You've read The Lord of the Rings,
Well, yes.
The Queen of the Elves.
And this is you.
I'm the Queen of the Elves.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are in not imposing. What's the word?
It's imbuing, but it's also imposing in a way but you are infusing. You're injecting. Yeah. And
it even goes back to, I'm going to upset some people here. It goes back to the Bible when they changed, what was it? Jacob became Israel.
Yeah.
And his name, and every time that word Israel is mentioned, it reinforces Israel.
Yeah.
So wherever it's said across the world, that's why even politicians today will keep saying words about people.
Yeah.
Because it imbues the energy to that person.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So whatever you name your cat, your dog, and your children, and we have what does the meaning of the word? Alison means truth. Arwynne means Queen of the Elves, or whatever it is.
It does.
And who knows what these other names are?
Names are important.
I've got nothing at my fingertips. But the point being that even
if you don't know the meaning, the meaning comes with a morphogenic field of information.
There you go.
I mean, it does, because we have a collective consciousness. There is this collective unconscious and collective subconscious, and the power of groups and the power of thought, and these things, not to get weird and supernatural, but
it matters.
But it does.
What you're naming things, and even if you're naming your car or your plants,
I do. I name all my plants.
I had this Jeep, and we called it Skadonk, which is an Afrikaans word that means jalopy.
Oh boy!
And because it was a bit of a hard ride, it was and but we've always named in my family. We've always named the cars, and they name ships, don't they?
That's true. Of course, they name ships. Yeah, and
it's the same thing.
It is. And when they would name something Endeavor or the
Artemis 2.
Yes, exactly. Titanic.
There you go.
Not to be dark, but Challenger.
Yes.
You have to
Operation, whatever they were called, Black Hawk Down or something.
Right. And which is, honestly, that's why the military, when they named, this is getting really weird, but when they named nuclear tests, and they did, literally every single nuclear test they ever did, every nuclear bomb that's ever been exploded had a name, a code name, and mostly they would be random. So Ivy Mike was one of the larger ones in the Pacific, one of the H bombs that actually knocked out electricity from, all over the place. And they did that because they didn't want to assign significance. They chose a random combination of names, kind of like a 1990s band name generator that you may have found on the old internet, if you know, where you just find like the word for a color and a plant, or something
Blackberry.
Like that, because they didn't want them to be significant, and they knew that names are significant.
Yes.
So when they were doing something kind of nefarious and weird, like nuclear testing, they were like, well, let's just make these the least significant possible. Ivy Mike, whatever. A lot of really kind of bizarre names. Some of them seemed kind of portentous and not pretentious, but portentous. But most of them seemed kind of like, oh, that's weird. Not it's significant at all. But if you're naming a planet or something that we're going to be using on a constant basis, or the ship that's taking, us to the moon, you want that to be meaningful.
And still they name them after the Greeks, right? Artemis.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean? We are constantly going back to what the Greeks did, and they set standards way back then. Sure, there was people before that.
Yeah.
But even, the naming of the planets and so on, and the meanings of the myth, which Arwynne's hot on.
Yeah.
And then we still have, even today, this Artemis 2. It tells you everything you need to know, right? It's very interesting. And even names like Diana, right? That's the lunar thing.
Well, Diana was the Artemis of Roman mythology. She was the same goddess.
Exactly. Yeah. And even today, I mean, Diana is held up as she's on no one's going to shoot her down.
Yeah. So that's why, that's why some stereotypes exist. As far as others go, when you say, the Taurus is stubborn, well, it's because bulls are stubborn. Taurus is the bull. Yes. Why is Scorpio associated with sex? That's a little more complicated. And the person who asked this question actually is a Scorpio, so that's an interesting thing right there. Scorpions are they're
penetrative.
They're penetrative. Yeah, they're poisonous. They will strike. Don't corner them. They're dangerous. They're creepy, and they're kind of like they operate in the dark. So all of those things are stereotypes about Scorpio. Why is it associated with sex? That's another question altogether. Because you don't look at a scorpion and think, ooh, sexy.
Yes. No, you don't.
But
they would impregnate you. But the point is that
if you were a female scorpion,
and even with a stinger, they'll stick it in you. You'll get stuck with it.
Great point.
That came from the constellations, right? Because they were looking up at these constellations, and there was these animals, what we saw, and these we're talking about the constellations in the zodiac.
Yeah, the ecliptic. Yeah,
the ecliptic, yeah, where all of these are coming from. The Leo, the lion, proud, confident, courageous.
Yeah,
but with a thorn in their paw, they just But it's all imagery and
metaphor.
Yes, it really is
symbolism.
And even that if they discover a new planet tomorrow, and who knows what they're going to name it, and that is the thing.
Yeah.
And if you're having children, consider what you're naming your children, because you are imbuing the meaning of that to that child, to that person.
Yeah.
And it's super important. Don't call your kids cockroach. Call them angel.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But
hero or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answered the question there, but
I mean, yeah.
I think so.
I think so.
It's not that someone just sat down and said, "Oh, let's do a book," but even anything discovered today that will get named by the science department, that meaning of that myth, like Eris, that's the most latest one that we could deal with, is totally representative of that.
The discoverer of that planet wanted to name that planet after someone heroic who defended the downtrodden, who had been a warrior who came around from being a murderer to being a hero of the downtrodden. This is Xena, the actual television show character.
Yes.
But instead they were like, well, it has to be a Greek, myth because this is the pantheon we're working with.
Yes.
And that's how it
dominates
Eris. And because of that difference, we entered a period of discord, arguably.
Indeed.
Arguably, if that planet had been allowed to be named Xena, who knows? Things might have gone differently. Might have been gone differently for Pluto.
Well, when Uranus was discovered by William Herschel, he wanted to call it Herschel.
Yeah.
And the letter H is part of the glyph.
Yeah.
So there's an H in the Uranus glyph now. And for a while it was called Herschel because he was the guy.
Yeah,
but eventually the Astronomical Association or whatever they were called
gotta be a god.
took it over and said, no, it has to be because it was the father of Saturn, therefore it has to be Uranus. And they maintained the H within the glyph of Herschel, but he didn't like it. Yeah. And even today, I mean, I have a backpack by Herschel because I had a choice of Herschel or Fjällräven.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, no, I'll take Herschel because that's Uranus.
They're very durable.
And my daughter said, what are you talking about? I said, yeah, Herschel, he's the guy who discovered Uranus. So all these things mean things.
Yeah.
I mean, and my backpack is irrelevant to the story, but the decision was made between should I get this backpack or that one? I'll take Herschel any day of the week because it's Uranus.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's partially because names mean something, and that's important, but also because observation means something.
Yes.
Because maybe thousands of years of people observing Scorpios, you kind of get the hint that they really are fixated on certain topics.
Yeah. Because
right later in the conversation that I had with this person, asking this question, they immediately said, well, they made some sexual reference about Pisces.
There you go.
I said Pisces is seen as flighty, and they said something kind of crude and sexual about it. And I was like, okay, Scorpio. Yeah. So
there you have it.
It's not just the metaphor, it's the observation.
It is. Absolutely.
It does matter.
And it is interesting that they called this Artemis 2. They could have called it the modern blah, 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 blah fish base.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They still went back to the Greeks.
Yeah.
Whereas Star Trek, they named that Enterprise? Mm-hmm. That was that's a futuristic name.
Right. It's like the Explorers, like Expedition or Explorer or Pathfinder,
yes,
Challenger.
But this one that went to the moon?
Yeah, Artemis.
Artemis. We're tapping right back to the Greeks.
Because Apollo was the first successful mission to the moon.
And he was a Greek something?
Yeah. Greek, yeah, exactly. The sun god.
There you go.
Yeah, and the first missions that orbited the moon and didn't actually land on the moon, those were the Gemini missions. So... yeah.
It's everywhere you look. It's everywhere you look.
And the scientists are like, yeah, we don't like astrology, but don't you? You kind of do,
But even
obviously.
there's
a
a
little bit.
chatbot, right? There's a chatbot called Gemini by somebody.
Yes.
I mean, that's the chitter chatter chatbot if ever was.
It's right at the top of my app right now. I've got Chrome up, and it's like Ask Gemini right there at the top.
There.
It says Ask Gemini.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So interesting question. Yeah. Good.
And our very last question comes from Anthony.
Right.
Anthony from Vancouver.
Okay.
Asks, what is, and this is another cheeky question, but here we are. It's our final question. What is the most hated sign?
Well, what sign is he? I mean,
well, he's a Virgo, so,
Interesting question.
Yeah.
What would you say, Arwynne?
Well, I jokingly told him Capricorn because we have our ongoing joke about that.
Okay.
We love our Capricorns, but it is funny. So we've mentioned Capricorn in the past a couple of times. And you have said famously, it doesn't matter what we say, they're not listening.
They're not listening. It's
which I told him and he loved
hate.
it.
Gosh, there's
it's
a
not
word.
hate. Yeah. No, we don't hate anybody. No, that's not true. We hate some people, but we don't hate any signs.
No.
We hate people who deserve it, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with astrology.
I do think there is a perception about some signs over others. I mean, 100%. Scorpio is the most dangerous sign. It's the most sexy sign, and people are more scared of Scorpios than anything else.
For sure.
Yes, I wouldn't say they're necessarily hated.
No.
But I think I mentioned before when I was like 16 or something, and I'm a Leo, and the boys didn't want to, well, they wouldn't ask me out because I was just too pushy.
Right.
And eventually I started saying, no, I'm a Pisces. Yeah. And it worked. And I thought, God grief. Because they knew that Pisces women are just gentle, little delicate, little petal things.
It's like that 80s movie, Earth Girls Are Easy.
Well, there you are. I mean, it didn't last long because clearly the Leo's just going to come through. But I do remember doing that. Saying, "Oh no, I'm a Pisces. Don't chop me down because I'm a Leo." Because people will say, "Oh, Leo, we don't want to. You just come in to take over," and I wasn't.
I mean, when I was first studying astrology, in my early teens, the Virgin. Come on, you don't want to. Even though I probably started obviously I started studying astrology when I physically 100% was, but
well, good to know, Arwynne. Thanks for that.
Yeah. I was like 11, but you don't want to be. I'm the Virgin forever. Come on, Yeah, but it's a psychological virginity. It's like it's like nuns or or the Vestal virgins when you.
Yeah, I don't think there's a particularly hated sign. I think somehow get a bad rap for good reason.
Yeah, like Gemini has this, this, you're crazy or you're two-faced or you're
two-faced.
Well, yes, I mean, I've known some crazy Geminis.
I think every sign's definitely got a bad side to it.
For sure.
But, and Virgo might just be nitpicky.
Yes.
But
I think that's what he was getting at. But he works with a lot of women. And if the women that he works with know he's a Virgo, I think they know in a good way. I think they know that he can be trusted to do the detailed work, and they're making fun of him, but they know they can because he will still do a great job.
No, it's interesting. Yeah.
They're not like, oh, you're so unreliable or you're a dick or,
exactly.
You're like, oh, no, you're Virgo because you'll stay late and do everyone else's job.
Yeah. It's interesting. If you're looking to date some woman, you're going to want to choose a sign that is compatible with you. For Virgo, it's going to be Taurus or Capricorn. That would be your best options. That's what he's really asking. So I don't know.
No, unless you want to challenge.
But who does?
Doesn't?
No. Well, who does? I don't know. No. Well. Yeah. So I don't know if we answered that one, but yeah.
I mean, there's really no answer to that one, but it's similar to the previous question about stereotypes. I mean, because stereotypes exist because people are.
Well, we have it with nationalities, don't we?
Of course we do. Yes, exactly.
The English are not famous for their cuisine.
Right. Yeah.
I'll take it. And Canadians are famous for being polite.
Yeah.
And it's a stereotype that has been noticed and therefore put on them.
Right, exactly. And no Canadians out there going, why does everyone think we're so polite? We're like, yeah, I guess we are. Pretty much.
There's no question about it. But,
there's no question. Yeah.
From the outside looking in, for sure. But I mean, you see it. Yeah.
Totally.
So it's just, people like to categorize people. People like to pigeonhole you. They want to say, well, who are you? Where are you from? How old are you? And they will pigeonhole you.
Yeah, any possible way. If they don't see it visually.
To understand the world around you. It's not that they're trying to put you down or put you up, but we're trying to understand where we fit in with others.
And people have so much sensory overload coming in at we've always grouped people, and we've always assumed things about people based on their appearance or
are they wearing the team shirt?
Exactly. And now more than ever, because we have so many people in the world who are expecting, our work, our remote, whatever, our, quote unquote friend group, which could be like hundreds of thousands
all
of
matters.
people. Yeah. And we have to be able to filter them and categorize them somehow. And some of that is going to be more flippant or capricious than others.
We want to belong. Whatever our tribe of choice is, we want to belong.
Yeah.
And it's a driver because if you belong to the group, you have to conform.
Yeah.
But that's how you survive. You cannot survive independently.
Yeah.
And
we want to belong, but we also want to understand other people.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means making assumptions. Sometimes that means digging a little deeper. Yeah.
What did that guy say? You keep your friends close, but your enemies closer, or something.
It's for sure.
You need to understand people, and it really comes down to that. And that, I think, what astrology does. In the broad aspect,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, so we have been answering you, our listeners' questions. We've been celebrating our 225th podcast episode of the Starzology Astrology podcast, and Arwynne and I are thrilled to have got here.
Yes.
It's taken a while. It really has, you know. It's but here we are at 225. That's quite a number to wrangle with.
Indeed.
Because I know we hit the 200 around Christmas time and celebrated that one. Yeah. So the next one we'll be celebrating will be 250, which will be later on this year, but sometime before Christmas.
Yeah.
But anyway. So I just want to thank everybody who has sent in their questions, and we really appreciate, and we had some good ones. We had some good ones, yeah. And we're happy to answer these questions because we love astrology, and we like to talk about it and share it with you. Yeah. So hopefully you have benefited from what we thought about these questions. And if you've got any other opinions, you can certainly email us at starzology@gmail.com with your comments, and we'll get around to them in another episode. So if you have found value in this episode, please do share it with anybody who'd be interested. Make sure to like, share, and follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and on YouTube. We really appreciate your support.
Leave us a 5-star review.
Leave us a 5-star review. Yes, indeed. And
make sure you're following our newsletter.
Oh, yes. And make sure you're getting our newsletter, and you can sign up at starzology.com/newsletter. And additionally, make sure you're getting Arwynne's newsletter, and you can find Arwynne at...
I'm at mspink.net, mspink.net, and I send out my newsletter every Saturday.
And great it is too.
Thank you.
So thanks so much to our listeners. Thank you for celebrating our 225th episode with us, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thanks so much for getting this far through the episode. I just want to take a moment to tell you about the two main options of my astrology services. So the first one is coaching. If you are an aspiring astrologer, and by that I mean someone who's perhaps a hobbyist astrologer, or someone who's learning astrology, or a student, or you've got a few books and you've been doing it for a while, but perhaps you need a little bit of help to bring it all together, then maybe getting some astrological coaching from me would be the answer for you. The astrology coaching I offer is a 1-hour session on Zoom, and it's tailored to answer your particular questions. For example, if you have issues with natal chart readings, we can go there. Or if you're having problems working with your forecasting, we can go there. Or even basic astrology stuff, or even getting yourself organized for your astrology business. The idea is that astrological coaching will answer your particular questions. It's tailored specifically to you and where you are in your astrological journey. And I'm happy to help you out with some guidance about how you can get going, what to focus on, and what to dismiss. So that would be the astrological coaching for people trying to learn astrology. The second astrological service I offer is consultations. So this is for someone who perhaps doesn't know anything about astrology, but they just want to have their chart read or get their chart done. Call it what you will. So once more, this is a 1-hour consultation over Zoom. I will interpret your chart, tell you about the main features, tell you about where the energy is flowing, and all the rest of what is entailed in a thorough natal chart interpretation. I can also add in some forecasting in there too, bearing in mind we only have 1 hour. So just in summary, I've got coaching for people who want to learn astrology, and I've got consultations for those who want to get an astrology reading done. I'm Alison Price from Starzology.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.